Hello, everyone. I'm here today to talk about Wordsworth planners. The good people at the Wordsworth Planner Company reached out to me a few weeks back and asked if they could send me a planner and let me share my thoughts on it with you all and show you what I thought. So I am unboxing a Wordsworth planner here today. It comes wrapped in cellophane. In a fairly sturdy box. And this one is a black undated planner. I love the idea of an undated planner. I look at it as a palette, and there's a sheet here inside that talks about using your planner to help achieve your goals and inspire you. And that's what these are all about, these planners. So it's wrapped again inside this Wordsworth planner, non-dated planner, monthly and weekly. This is a horizontal overview. The weeks run this way. They also put one out with vertical perspective, but I prefer the horizontal, which is what they had initially sent me. So this is how it comes, and there's a pen loop. It is hardbound, and there are 3 ribbons through it that are anchored in for bookmarks. The one I asked them to originally send me when they reached out was the pecan brown one, and that is the one I've been working with. As many of you know, I live on a mountain and I don't have a busy out of the house schedule, but we've got a lot going on here, and I need a garden planner and I need a log. So this is the pecan brown. I hope the light is picking up the great shades of it. It's textured, or what I would have called years ago when I had little kids in the house, fingerprint proof. I suppose you could get fingerprints on it, but fabulous texture and shadings, and I just thought this was a very Mrs. Cog color. The elastic closure goes through the back, and I didn't want to anchor anything on the front because I want this to be a practical book, so I took my favorite Tracy Fox lace embellishment that says "Be Fearless" and added a little leaf to her attachment here, just to slip under here, so it's removable and it also stays quite well. Now, as you know, I like to do my planners in a junk journal style, but because this is hard bound, we don't really want to be adding anything that's going to give too much bulk to it. We've got plenty of things that we can add bulk and ephemera to, but I also wanted it to have character. I wanted it to invite me into use. So as you can see, the edges of the pages are smooth, and so going inside, what I've done is I've added tabs, and the tabs say goals, monthly, weekly, perennials, design, and notes, which are basically the categories that I would use most in my garden homestead planner. I like this because it divides the months and the weeks out separate, and what I need for my purposes are a place to keep a garden log of what I've done in the past, so I know when I fed various parts of my garden and when I did tasks, and then I also need a to-do for going forward. So let me show you what I've done with this. By the way, I took the 3 ribbons that are bookmarks and I've put ribbon crimps on the bottom and added some double-sided charms, a hummingbird, a bead that's a bee, and a rake. And these are 1/2 centimeter wide ribbons, so there were standard ribbon crimps or end crimps, depending on what company you buy them with, that you can get and just clamp them right on there. So that's a nice little feature that's easy to customize with these. So going inside, the paper is good quality. It says, in case of loss, please return to. So I just put in Mrs. Cog, and as a reward, magic salsa as an incentive, as a happy thought for me. And I put some of my fancy washi. And it has an overall, I won't really call it instructions or directions, but advice on how to use this planner to inspire, to choose your goals, to stick to your goals, to modify them, to be inspired. And it's really quite a neat little flowchart that they've included there. This has past years, this year, and next year. The following page is travel planning, and since this is my garden journal, where I travel to, we live in the middle of nowhere, and we have 4 cities or towns that we venture to. So I have started keeping a log of where we're going for various garden supplies, starter plants, seeds, that type of thing, anything to do with our tractor or planting stuff. So I can kind of keep a running log, and I added some travel Tim Holtz washi just for character there. And they've got great quotes throughout this. Not all those who wander are lost, J.R.R. Tolkien. The next page is really neat. It's got time zones all around the world, and I thought that this was neat because I have friends, crafting friends all over the world, and I text with them and chat with them on my phone when I'm in the garden. And I've been able to identify where different people are in the world and the time zones that they're in. And I just thought it would be fun. So I took some washi and just labeled their time zones there. And a little more Tim Holtz washi here and there. So the first section is goals. And at first, when I was using this, decided to use this as a garden planner, I didn't think that I would be using this section much. But as I thought about it more, it's actually become quite helpful. It has a page that says goals for a mind map, and some more great quotes from Eleanor Roosevelt and Confucius, and a vision board page. Then it's dividing goals into 3 kinds: personal, family, friends, and relationship, and professional. So what I've done is I gave that a little thought, and my personal, especially where it has to do with planting, is what I do for play or enjoyment. My flowers, my little puttering side hobbies that have to do with planting and growing things. And then for family, friends, and relationships, that's the work we do. That's the homestead work we do to grow our own food, to share it with the kids, and the animals, and such. And then the third, professional, is what I share with other people on our blogs, on various social media. So I have broken it into 3 categories, and this gives you a page for each to kind of give your overall goals and what you're going to do about it. I've also taken the liberty of experimenting with stamps throughout this because I wanted to see how well these pages would hold up to various types of ink. And I have a section in the back. I'll show you more of what I found with that. So I've just gone through and identified some of the goals I have for each of these relationships with personal, my family, and with you all, and things I'd like to get done and how I might go about doing it. And now that it's down on paper, Gray Kitty wants to help. Now that I have it down on paper, I'm more apt to revisit it and carry it forward. So as I said, the Wordsworth planners break themselves into monthly and weekly, and for the monthly, what I'm going to do is use this as my garden log. And so instead of just writing down a narrative of what we've done on different dates to refer back to in later years or later in the season, I've been able to do it here. I've done some more stamping and washi, and this each month it gives you a page for personal, friends, family, relationship, and professional goals, and then a place for notes. And I've actually started stenciling in these as well. It took the stenciling very well with the brushes and the Tim Holtz vintage photo distress inks, and there was no bleeding through of that at all. So I thought that worked really well. And here is the undated month. So March was the first month where we in this weather zone get to do anything with our gardens, and I got to note when I planted and took delivery of different things, and when we tilled the garden, what we added then. And so that's the beginning of my garden record. And then it has a page after the month to look back on what you've done for the past month and make any notes and that type of thing. So it really prompts you to re-examine what you've been carrying through as your goals, if that's your thing or you find that helpful. And then the next month begins again, April, and I've done, again, some little bit of stamping and stenciling here and there. I find that if I have a little bit of artsy stuff laid down, it just helps to invite me back in to continue updating and such. And now I'm in the month of April. This is my fabulously expensive washi tape. I tried to hide how much I spent on it from Cog, but he found me out, and after I showed him how pretty it was, he almost had to agree that it was worth the price. But so I'm really enjoying this. The only thing that's a little bit different with this is it's undated, which I love. I love being able to use this at any time for any month that I want to jump into. But they start their weeks on Monday and they end them on Sunday, which is kind of how I look at my weeks. We're just used to seeing our calendars start on Sunday. A little bit out of the ordinary, but I'm fine with that. And again, I'm just keeping track of all that's going on that has anything to do with what I need to keep track of. So I've got this all set up. For May, I've got the first official frost date of the year, and even noted the last, the date of, when we're thinking that it will frost at the end for harvest purposes. And I'll just carry this forward throughout the summer. So those are the months. The monthly section, and then the weekly section here. The weekly section, I've got another tab for that. Don't call it a dream, call it a plan. Another great quote. And this is what the weekly spread looks like. And again, if you have a schedule to keep up with, if you have any kind of regular tasks that you need to note and such, this is wonderful for it. And it has each day of the week here, and Saturday and Sunday, and one for each week of the year. I did a little bit of stamping here, and I left this page blank to show you what this looks like, aside from the Tim Holtz stamp blank. And by the way, this Tim Holtz stamp did bleed through, so I paper clipped it and skipped a page before I started mine. I'm using this weekly section as a schematic. I don't need to pay attention to what day of the week it is, unless I have Etsy stuff to go out, and it's Sunday because the postman doesn't come. But I don't need to plan by the day of the week. What I need is a running list that I can cross stuff off and add to throughout the year. So what I've done is I've written the beginning of the week down, the date, and just use some washi to cover those days of the week, which is great. It's an embellishment that draws me in, and I can make my lists, and there's cordoned off areas. I can cross things off as we go. I can add to this and make as many more lists as I need to. I dated this today, and I've got some more things to add to what we are going to do, and from the list I made last week. And we're subject to the weather. If it's raining, we can't go out and test the soil. I certainly can't weed and mulch the strawberry patch until the strawberries start coming up, which depends on the temperature. So I never know what days I'm going to be able to get this done. Sometimes it's a few weeks earlier, sometimes later. I just need the list to prompt me to do that when I'm able to. So I will cross things off and add to these lists in great detail as it goes along. And I think this is a great schematic to be able to do that. So it just has all the weeks in it. I'm grateful for reflection. I love that it has that in there. And washi, these word stickers that we have, the stamping, these dates and what I've written in here. I'm using my Arteza fine liners, and I'm actually going to do a video showing more about these soon, but I wanted to let you know these do not bleed through, and I've done quite a bit of extensive writing in here, and you cannot see it on the back page. So I was really happy both with the ink and with the paper in the Wordsworth planner on that. And then I went to the back of these weekly sections, and I just grabbed the last 3 or 4 weeks of the year out of this, and I marked this perennials. Perennials being plants that come back on their own each year. You don't need to replant them. And I have a really big focus on perennials up here. So I made my first page on my guerrilla list. Guerrilla gardening is when you plant things on property that doesn't belong to you. And if you Google it, you'll find a lot of examples of people who do that in the city, planting little gardens on abandoned lots, things that are left uncared for. Up here we have so much property that's just unused. People own it and they never come see their property, and things grow with wild abandon. So I may have noticed certain things that are growing that are of interest on their property. I wouldn't know how they got there, but I made a list to check on things and a list of things to transplant if I were to be one of those people that might, plant on other people's property. Seed bombs are something you can make to actually kind of literally throw onto properties that will break open and germinate and grow there without any care at all. And if they're carefully planned, they actually work. And then I made a list of things that I might want to look at growing on nearby properties this year. So, and then I've got a list of perennials for my own raised beds, for my proper garden, and things to do and check on. And again, I just covered the dates, and these lists are wonderful to compartmentalize and go back to and refer to. And I've got it all behind this tab. So that works really well for me. And then when you finish the section on the weeks, I don't know if this is showing up well, but I love the type of, it's not a grid paper, but there's dots. They use it in bullet journaling quite a bit. And they've got a whole section of pages for this. And I have labeled this design, and I will probably use these to sketch out the shape of the garden beds and illustrate what I had planted last year there and what I want to do this year, so I can note the rotation of crops. And then I'll have it all in this book to refer to back in the future. So that's really helpful for me. And partway through this, I took a page and I tested various inks on this paper. So this was the Ranger Archival. This was Distress in the Dusty Concord color. This was the Memento brand Archivals. And all of those bled through slightly on the back page. I tried the Tim Holtz Vintage Photo Distress ink. It did not bleed. And this is the coffee color Ranger brand Archival. And what I found was, if you're using thick stamps with wide, harsh impressions on them, it will bleed through with the Archival coffee, which is my favorite ink. But if you're using what I call the finer stamps, like this Graphic 45 what was the name of that? Country Garden? It was Country something. Wonderful series they had. Anyways, this is the stamps from it. They're very fine cut, and using those, the archival ink does not bleed at all through the page, and I was really happy with that because now I know I can use my finer stamps and the archival coffee colored ink on all throughout this, and I won't have any problem about it soaking through. So there was that, and I just included one charm here, little ladybug in my notes, and made a whole nother section for note taking in the back. And of course, one of the fabulous zebra pens that I love because they're relatively inexpensive. They're black ink instead of blue, and they're thin. They fit inside the pen loops of almost every planner. So this is what I've done with my pecan brown color Wordsworth, and I love it. They are so affordable. I will put a link below this video to where you can get these, and looking forward to opening up my black one. I also have one here in a beautiful I would call it a teal color. I forget what they officially called this. And they have one in a fabulous raspberry too. It's darker than fuchsia. It's a really rich color. So I encourage you to check these out if you're into this type of thing, and and use this as a inspiration to be able to give a junk journal effect to a book that you don't want to tear out or alter the pages or make too bulky, but that you can definitely personalize and embellish without making it any chunkier. So thank you to the Wordsworth planner people for introducing me to this and sending me this gorgeous planner, and I will be back with you all soon. Have a great day. Bye.